Hey folks, Mike Naso here with the latest on the tropics. We do have a brand new advisory issued on what is a potential tropical cyclone. It's not a tropical cyclone yet, but it is a potential cyclone, and the National Hurricane Center knows that it's probably going to become a tropical storm and affect land, so we need to issue watches and warnings. Therefore, they're issuing an advisory before it's officially a tropical storm. Nevertheless, this is the Atlantic Ocean right now, and you can clearly see it looks more like mid-August than it does late June. We have a constant fetch of waves off Africa there, a very active intertropical convergence zone, or the ITCZ, and you can see one after another, but it is this front one here that looks like it is going to become a hurricane in the Caribbean in a couple of days. But everything's really alive right now. We've got this flare-up over in the Bahamas, we've got a flare-up we're watching in the Gulf of Mexico associated with some trophiness, and we got a lot to talk about. Now, I wrote down the coordinates because this system doesn't have a low-level circulation. So what this means is the NOAA aircraft was flying out there, zigzagged all around it, found winds of tropical storm force, so winds are 40 miles per hour, but it couldn't find a closed, low-level circulation at the surface, and that's what would constitute calling it a tropical cyclone. And a tropical cyclone with 40-mile-an-hour winds would be a tropical storm, so we can't give it a name until we know it has that closed center, which it does not yet. But whatever center there is at about 8.6 north, 50.9 west. Now think about that, 8.6 degrees north. This thing is so far south that it is going to end up causing problems, not just for areas there of the extreme southern Windward Islands and the ABC Islands, but areas of Venezuela and Colombia. They're going to get affected too by this thing. Now, here's the latest track, and you can see from the National Hurricane Center it is expected to become a tropical storm, and by the way, the next name is Bonnie. And then we expect it to continue underneath this dominant ridge of high pressure straight to the west, slamming into Central America as a hurricane. The Hurricane Center does expect this to become a Category 1 hurricane, so that would be the first hurricane of what is expected to be, based on the forecast, a very busy hurricane season. Nevertheless, the big impact in the short term is going to be heavy rainfall in areas there of South America and Venezuela. Even, look, Brazil. Brazil is showing up on the map. I mean, this is really far south. I don't need this stuff anymore. But this is really far south, and that is why we're watching it so carefully. Now, here's the computer models, and you can see they're in good agreement. This thing is not going to come north. It would really have to strengthen much more than we think, and it would have to have this ridging to the north break down to try and get some kind of northerly component in there. So it looks like it's just going to plow right west into Central America, but still hit land, and it looks like still become a hurricane. The wind shear, remember a couple of days ago I was talking about it getting decapitated, remember that? Not anymore. Not anymore. Look at how favorable it's become in the Caribbean, and to say nothing of the boiling hot tropical Caribbean waters. Late June, early July, Caribbean hot waters, low wind shear. This thing's just bubbling. Look at it. It's got kind of that shaggy look to it as it tries to get some sort of a circulation going. It's not there yet, but it's got a good moisture envelope moving along towards the west. You can see the GFS model slams it as a hurricane into Central America. You can see the H-WRF model. Of course, the H-WRF tends to make them stronger than they typically become, hopefully, but this makes it a very powerful hurricane. And then we also have a slower motion on that model. You can see in 5 days it's still over water. That would be a big problem. If it doesn't move fast enough and it stays over those waters, it would become a stronger hurricane than Category 1. And then you can see the HMON, the hurricane model, more realistic, but still a very impressive landfall there over areas of Nicaragua. Can't rule out yet Honduras if it moves just along the north coast of Honduras, and that would put areas of the Yucatan and even Belize at risk of a landfall, potentially a landfall. So what are we talking about? First and foremost, heavy rainfall. That's going to be the main threat with this system. Remember, it's not about how strong a system is, it's more about how large in space it is and how much it's moving, with what pace it's moving. Thankfully, this is moving fast enough to where hopefully it won't just bury itself down there and cause flooding rains, but in areas like South America, Central America, they are very susceptible to mudslides, flooding, all kinds of bad stuff. And I remember I told you yesterday about Hurricane Caesar, killed hundreds of people in Central America in July of '96. If it happened before, it could happen again. So if you're in areas of Central America, I know we do have people who watch these updates in Belize. If you're in Honduras, Nicaragua, be on the lookout, because if you live in an area that is prone to mudslides and flooding, what will likely be Hurricane Bonnie, that could cause a lot of problems with heavy rain. And of course, the tropical storm force winds as well. Here are the ensemble models, and you can see we're getting some indications of another wave that the Hurricane Center is watching following this system, to say nothing of the blob in the Gulf. Now this blob in the Gulf, this is associated with the frontal boundary here and this trophiness, and you can see it's kind of starting to show a little more life. I'm starting to, you see what I'm seeing, sort of this rotation here blowing towards the south coast there of Louisiana. Louisiana, you guys have been hit by 2 Category 4 hurricanes, a Category 2 hurricane, and a Category 3 hurricane, all within the last 2 years. Unless I'm missing one. I might even be missing one. The point is, you guys have been hit so hard that you don't even want to hear about hurricanes. Thankfully for you, this will all be moving away, but South Texas, Mexico, Padre Island, Brownsville, Corpus, what's down there, Matamoros, areas like that right by the river, they could be impacted by whatever happens with this system. And again, it could play a role if it were to blow up into a tropical storm. That could weaken the ridging and cause our hurricane in the Caribbean in a few days to get a little bit more latitude. So, not likely, but something to watch. And that's why some of those ensemble models of the spaghetti were starting to show a little bump to the north at the end. And we always got to keep an eye on that. Over the Bahamas, we have this little blow up. This almost looks like it's kind of associated with an upper level feature, but again, blowing up some thunderstorms there in the Bahamas, and the waters are hot. It just seems like everything's spinning right now, doesn't it? Like we got the wave in the Caribbean spinning, we've got our system developing spinning, 2 waves behind that, the Bahamas, the Gulf. Very, very busy for late June. So the bottom line, we're going to continue to watch this system. Again, it looks like it's going to become Tropical Storm Bonnie in the next 12 to 18 hours. And then later on in the week, Hurricane Bonnie, the first hurricane of the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season, and then slam into Central America. We're going to keep an eye on it here. Like, subscribe, share, and I'll be back with further updates as we continue to watch this developing tropical cyclone.